So welcome to this webinar, everyone. Accelerating towards sustainability. This is hosted by the WRAP team today. And it's great to have you all here. Thanks for your time. And it's brilliant to see so much interest on this topic. So hopefully we can provide you with some good insights and some kind of practical takeaways today. So just in terms of the setup, it'll be really straightforward. So this is a webinar format. Your microphones and your cameras will be turned off, but you can ask us questions through the chat function. So you can submit those there and we will do our best to answer some of those towards the end. In terms of timing, we expect this session to last between around 35 and 45 minutes. And please note that we will be recording the session for our own purposes. So just some quick introduction. So my name is Claire Carroll and I am a business account manager here at WRAP on our textiles work. And I'm joined today by Kat Salvage, who is our sector technical specialist also on textiles. So then in terms of the agenda for today, so firstly, we're going to be covering the why. So why textiles businesses should act. We'll also focus on the importance of collaborative action and how this relates to Textiles 2030. Then I'll pass over to Kat, who's going to outline for you the importance of setting targets and measuring product footprints. And we're also going to cover some tried and tested strategies that will get your textiles business started on its sustainability journey, as well as following up with some next steps. So to get started, I'm just going to do a bit of scene setting. So the challenge that we're faced with is that clothing sales have been increasing faster than GDP and garments are being used for less time before being disposed of more quickly. So this means that the carbon impact of clothing is going in the wrong direction. And in the UK, the clothing industry is the 8th largest sector in terms of household spend, and we buy more clothes per person than any other country in Europe. So despite being ranked 8th in size, it's actually 4th in terms of its environmental impacts, coming behind only housing, transport and food. So this is obviously really significant. And the production of textiles themselves is really resource intensive, so uses a huge amount of water, of virgin materials and of energy, which contributes to a wide number of issues, including climate change, biodiversity loss, water scarcity and microplastic pollution. So in terms of the end of life of garments, around a third of the contents of wardrobes in the UK are not worn, and over 300,000 tonnes of used clothing ends up in landfill each year. It's also estimated that only 1% of garments are recycled into new materials. So you can see there's a lot of waste there as well. So in order to meet international targets, we need to reduce the carbon impact of clothing by half in the next 10 years. So to achieve this, businesses will need to learn to measure their impact, change their design choices, use more recycled materials, and also offer opportunities for consumers to trade what we wear. And the industry needs to make that transition towards a circular economy where we keep products and materials in circulation for as long as possible if we are to achieve the Paris Agreement 1.5 degree trajectory. So from a government perspective, the Chancellor Rishi Sunak recently announced the UK's intention to mandate climate disclosures by large companies and financial institutions across our economy by 2025. There's also a host of future policies which could impact on the textiles industry. So that includes the introduction of extended producer responsibility, as well as a set of eco-design and eco-labelling requirements, which could also come into play. And in December, the Environmental Audit Committee followed up on its 2018 inquiry to monitor progress around environmental impact of the fashion industry as well. And then in terms of the consumer, so what we've seen is that more than ever, customers are looking to the textiles industry to act responsibly and actively work to reduce the social and environmental footprints of their businesses. Research that's been carried out by WRAP has shown that consumer engagement on sustainability issues has actually deepened during the COVID-19 crisis. So our latest insights that we released in October found that half of people now view the environmental impact of clothing as being severe. And this has risen by a third since 2017. So customers are definitely making that connection between the clothing that they purchase and their environmental impact, and they're looking for brands to act accordingly on this. This is also supported by evidence that shows customers are switching to more sustainable product alternatives where they can, and they're actively seeking out those sustainable materials to make the correct purchase decision. What we also know is that investors care. So BlackRock is the world's largest asset manager with over $7 trillion under management. And their CEO has said that they will be looking to businesses to make the required progress on sustainability reporting, which has really set their expectation in that area. And last week, Prince Charles launched a charter to urge big businesses, industry, and financial worlds to commit to becoming sustainable by 2030. We also know that from research, circular economy businesses tend to outperform those that take, make, and dispose. And the Business of Fashion's recent report predicted that in 2021, we will see circularity moving from the fringes to be more centre stage. So the onus is most definitely on businesses to act now in order to remain both competitive but also profitable. So what has the industry done already to take action on climate change, and what can we learn from this? Well, over the past 8 years, WRAP has been working with UK brands and retailers to tackle carbon and water through the Sustainable Clothing Action Plan, which is also known as SCAP for short. So by signing up to the SCAP agreement, retailers committed to work towards a 15% reduction in their carbon and water footprints by the year 2020, and that was from a starting point of 2012. So in November, we released the latest results, which covered progress between 2012 to 2019. And the good news is that SCAP signatories managed to go beyond the targets that were originally set, reducing the water footprint of products sold by almost 20% and the carbon footprint by nearly 16%. We can also see that SCAP signatories have made better progress in the wider industry towards reducing their impacts. And this demonstrates that taking action together is most definitely helps businesses to go further and at a faster pace. So why have the SCAP signatories accelerated progress compared to the wider industry? Well, there's a few kind of reasons behind this. The first is the industry collaboration aspect. So SCAP brings together UK fashion and textile businesses, academic industry, and research organisations all together. This is done in a non-competitive environment over a period of 8 years, with signatories sharing a common goal and contributing to shared learnings from both successes and their failures. So we feel this same progress could not have been achieved by businesses working in isolation. The second factor in SCAP's success was the sharing of joint progress against targets. So by developing common insight into priorities, signatories have been able to more easily identify and really focus in on those opportunities to reduce their carbon and water footprints. SCAP also provided a transparent approach to measurement that is backed by science. So WRAP's footprint calculator provides a consistent approach to measuring sustainability, tracking progress against targets, and selecting strategies for improvement. Another reason for the success was that SCAP signatories are in a position to influence and educate their consumers. Citizen behaviour change has contributed to lower carbon impacts through actions such as washing less frequently and washing at lower temperatures. And businesses as part of SCAP were able to provide consistent and clear messaging to their customers on this. So just to focus in a little more on that collaboration element. So at WRAP, we believe that collaboration is a key driver for change, which has been shown by our SCAP initiative. The challenges are too large and complex to be addressed by individual businesses alone, and the interaction between businesses, governments, and citizens can really accelerate the pace of that change. Collaboration allows businesses to ensure that they are at the front line when setting targets and taking action. And it also means that common insights can be developed into industry-wide priorities. So businesses are sharing learnings from their successes and from their failures, and that helps as a group to address barriers. Collaboration also leads to trials and pilot activity, which can deepen understanding and test viability and then later be scaled. Wide participation and collaboration also helps businesses at the beginning of their sustainability journey to really focus their attention on the most beneficial changes they can make, as well as learning from brands with more established strategies. So we've learned a lot from the Sustainable Clothing Action Plan, and those learnings are a great foundation for a wider, more impactful UK roadmap for the next 10 years. We want to carry on that legacy of SCAP, and we see that there's both the need and the opportunity for continued collaboration across the UK textile sector. So as a result of this, in April, WRAP will launch Textiles 2030. So this is a new UK sector-wide collaboration to make rapid science-based progress on circularity and climate action. Textiles 2030 will provide a roadmap for UK businesses, bringing the sector together to accelerate change through the adoption of common and globally relevant vision. So in terms of who will be involved, so Similar to SCAP, collaboration remains a key aspect in Textiles 2030, and it's going to mean involvement from a whole textile supply chain in order to make the progress needed. So as you can see here, we've got brands and retailers, knowledge partners, recyclers, government, all coming together, as well as innovators in the field that will help us to achieve our ambitious targets. And I'll set out those targets for you now. So the headline target for Textiles 2030 is the Paris Agreement goal of limiting global warming to a 1.5 degree trajectory. We'll also continue to reduce water footprint, recognising that textile production, especially cotton, is water intensive in regions which are facing serious water stress. The third target is to deliver circularity for the textiles industry, i.e. using textile products and materials that we can displace carbon and water impacts of new production. So to dig into that third one around circularity a little bit deeper, there's a few ambitions we've set out under this. So firstly, it's to design products with end of life and circularity in mind at that initial design stage. Secondly, it's to increase the amount of circular materials that are used in products, such as recycled fibres. And then thirdly, it's to upscale the amount of product reuse in the UK. So how will we reach these goals? Through a target, measure and act approach. Well, I'll now pass you on to Kat, who can guide you through some of the practicalities of reaching these goals and some of the kind of high impact changes that you can make as a business.
Thanks, Claire. So as Claire has mentioned, we've learned a lot over the last 8 years working with UK retailers through the Sustainable Clothing Action Plan. So from our collaboration with the industry, we've developed a target, measure, act approach to sustainability. And this has allowed us to support retailers making changes to their sourcing and business strategies to reduce their products' environmental impacts. So the target, measure, act approach gives brands who are unsure of how to gather sustainability data the tools they need to gain clear visibility over their environmental impacts. As without this visibility, it's very hard to know where to begin, and it makes implementing change very challenging. So in a quick summary, so by setting targets, it gives your business clear strategic direction and defined goals to work towards. And targets can also act as a call to action to your in-house teams, suppliers and customers that your business is taking sustainability seriously. And then moving on to measure. So by measuring your product impacts, area of concern can be highlighted and focused attention can be taken. The regular measurement also allows your business to benchmark how successful its improvement actions have been against your targets. And then looking at the act section, once you've got clear visibility of your product's impacts, you can act on this information. So the data that WRAP has collected from retailers over the last 8 years can help you see what actions can make the biggest savings and also help you implement practical solutions. So on the following slides, I'm going to deep dive into each element of Target, Measure, Act and how they can help your business get started and accelerate towards a more sustainable and resource efficient future. So firstly, I'm going to talk about targets. So why do we need to set targets? So setting targets shows your business has realised it needs to take action and is formally committed to reducing its environmental footprint. So and with government, investors and customers increasingly looking to brands to take responsibility for their impacts, this is a key time to set targets for your business. But to ensure your targets are effective in your business and actually drive the change, we recommend that you set science-based targets. So science-based targets are defined as a set of goals developed with a clear route to reduce greenhouse gas emission and are developed in line with a scale of reduction needed to keep global warming in line with the Paris Agreement. So by setting science-based targets, you'll be able to set clear strategic direction and set clear milestones for your in-house teams and your suppliers to work towards. And you'll also be able to confidently communicate your progress through transparent data without the fear of being accused of greenwashing. So it's also key to make sure your targets align with the industry and global goals. This way, you know that you're on the right track and that your targets are ambitious enough. It also means you'll be working along with the wider industry to achieve those targets. So to set the Textiles 2030 targets, WRAP has used its up-to-date knowledge of the environmental impacts in the sector to allow us to identify what targets the UK textile industry needs to take action. We've also made sure that we've benchmarked ourselves with other industry initiatives. So by working towards our targets, brands can align with and coordinate with international efforts. And we've had extensive input from the clothing sector and technical specialists to agree these ambitious targets. So by working towards Textiles 2030 targets, brands can also report progress towards a number of the UN Sustainable Development Goals, particularly those on climate action and responsible production and consumption. Textile 2030 also enables you to demonstrate your progress against greenhouse gas reduction for Scope 3 emissions in line with the Paris Climate Change Agreement. And it will also give you the reporting mechanism to deliver against the high-level ambitions of work stream 1, 4 and 5 of the BRC's climate action roadmap, which is working towards decarbonisation of UK retail. And finally, it provides you with tangible actions to evidence your progress under a number of the SAC's benchmarking areas, again, looking at Scope 3 emissions, as well as improvement actions in your supply chain, action on water, materials, and end of life for products. So from all the data WRAP has collected throughout SCAP, we've been able to model a series of scenarios which show that the industry can make the changes that are necessary to hit these targets. And this has allowed us to set ambitious targets, but also show brands and retailers that they are achievable. And then being able to collect and analyse product data has been a key driver for sustainability for the brands that have been involved in SCAP. So central to this success is the WRAP footprint calculator, which allows brands and retailers to measure their products' carbon, water and waste footprints. So data has been really key in accelerating sustainability agendas. So by measuring product impacts and using the footprint calculator for a science-based and transparent approach to measurement, it's given retailers clear visibility of where action needs to be taken and allowed them to be able to bring sustainability into the conversation with their CEOs and senior stakeholders in their businesses. So this visibility has also helped build clear sustainability strategies and track progress. So this slide is just giving you a snapshot of the WRAP footprint calculator and some of the reasons why it's been so successful in helping brands measure their footprints of their products and then act on the results. So it's a tried and tested science-based tool which WRAP has developed with the SCAP signatories and sector experts, which enables companies to measure their baseline footprints, identify opportunities for improvement, and then monitor the results. And it's continuously refreshed with current data, and retailers play a huge part in adding new improvement actions into the calculator. It's also a cost-effective measurement tool. So prior to SCAP, it was not possible for organisations to easily measure their Scope 3 greenhouse gas emissions from their textile products without significant investment in time and also in specialist resources. So the success of an initiative like SCAP depends on wider engagement and participation of businesses. So therefore, the calculator needed to be accessible and effective for as wide a range of businesses as possible. The calculator measures Scope 3 emissions. So our product's biggest impacts come from Scope 3. So it's really important that we can measure that. And we'll take a slightly closer look at Scope 3 on the next slide. It also takes a full life cycle approach, which means it measures a product's cradle to grave footprint. And I'll touch on this on another slide as well. But basically, it means you can clearly see exactly where the impacts are in your product's life cycle. The calculator gives you the ability to model different improvement scenarios to support your business's decision making and where to take action. And it also lets you measure improvements that you've taken. So it shows you the savings you've made compared to if you hadn't made any improvements at all. And the calculator results will let you communicate robust climate change action you've taken to your customers, media, peers, government, and the investment community. So as mentioned on the previous slide, to know your product's environmental footprint, you must measure your scope 3 emissions. So the UNFCCC defines scope 3 as all other indirect emissions from activities of the organisation occurring from sources that they don't control. So scope 3 emissions usually make up the greatest share of the carbon footprint, covering emissions associated with products and services from your supply chains, as well as activities during customer use and waste disposal. So upstream activities relate to your purchased goods and services, all the way from agriculture of natural fibres and the extraction of oil for synthetics, through to garment manufacture and transportation. And this is where we see the biggest product impacts, typically around 80% of carbon footprint and nearly all of a product's water footprint. And you can see this shown in the two pie charts. And then the downstream activities relate to the customer use and disposal phase of the product's life cycle. So there's also quite a big impact here, with 25% of the carbon footprint coming from consumers' washing habits in the use phase. So the WRAP footprint calculator also uses a life cycle assessment approach, which means it measures the impacts right from the planting of the cotton seed or the extraction of oil through manufacturing, garment assembly, transport and customer use to when the garment is finally disposed of. And by using the life cycle analysis data, you can really pinpoint the hotspots where you need to take action to lower your product's footprints. So the heat maps on this slide show you the breakdown of each fibre footprint by raw material, processing, in use and disposal phase, and it highlights where the biggest impacts are. So these heat maps show a national default fibre mix, and we've taken this from the WRAP footprint calculator as an example. So we can see that the biggest carbon impacts come from the raw material phase in polyester garments. And this is due to the oil extraction needed to produce virgin polyester. And we can also see carbon is quite high in the cotton raw material phase. And this is due to the use of synthetic pesticides and insecticides used to grow conventional cotton. So from this heat map, you could say that these would be two key areas to focus on to reduce your carbon footprint. And you can also see that the use phase has quite high carbon footprinting in cotton and polyester. So this is where brands might choose to engage with their customers on washing their clothes at lower temperatures to help reduce the carbon footprint here. And when looking at the water heat map, we can see that the cotton raw material phase has a huge footprint. So this is due to the amounts of water used to irrigate cotton fields. So to reduce your water footprint, this would be a key area to focus on. So once you have measured your product footprint and have a clear visibility of your impact hotspots, you can begin to take action. So every business will have different impacts depending on their fibre mix and their business model. But from our work with the SCAP signatories, there are three key areas to take focused action. So the first is looking at lower impact product development and manufacturing. And as we saw before, up to 80% of a product's impact can come from the manufacturing phase. So considering lower impact materials and processes in the design phase is key. And brands can be strategic here and focus on their key volume fabrics and volume product categories to really take action on their biggest impacts. The second area to look at to reduce product impact is through extending the useful life of clothing. So by extending a garment's life cycle by 9 months, it can reduce its impacts by 4 to 10%. and this by displacing the need for new virgin resources to create new products. So retailers could consider implementing circular business models that increase reuse and recycling of textiles to extend their products' life cycles. And thirdly, brands can look at engaging and influencing their customers to change their habits and behaviours in the use phase. So I'll go into each of these three areas in a bit more detail and give some examples of how retailers working with RAP have reduced their footprints. So 80% of a product's impact is decided at the design phase, and this is an area many retailers have successfully reduced their impacts. And the main way to reduce products' impacts here is by switching fibres from conventional sources to lower impact preferred fibre sources. So this slide shows key fibre switching actions and low impact dye processes that retailers have switched to lower their product impacts. And the most used improvement actions by our SCAP retailers have been the uptake of preferred cottons, recycled polyesters, and lyocell instead of viscose. So cotton and polyester make up the largest market share in the UK. So these fibres are often a good place to start for retailers. Looking at cotton, it has the largest water footprint of all the materials sold by UK retailers. But on average, the water footprint per tonne of garments sold by SCAP retailers has reduced by nearly 20% between 2012 and 2019. And the widespread shift to lower impact cottons, which are typically farmed in a less water intensive way, are the key driver in the reduction of the water footprint. So in 2019, 55% of cotton sold by the SCAP retailers was from more sustainable sources. And this could include switching to BCI cotton, organic cotton, or recycled cotton, or cotton made in Africa, or Cotton Connect's Real Cotton project. And then looking at carbon footprints, many SCAP retailers have started to switch from virgin polyesters to recycled polyesters. And recycled polyester has an estimated 32% lower carbon footprint than virgin polyester, as there's no need to extract oil to produce it. And using recycled content is also helping to drive the demand for recycled fibres and helping us move towards a more circular economy for the textile industry. And this is something that's key for us to hit our Textiles 2030 carbon reduction target. So efficient production actions have also helped lower the carbon and water footprints for some of the SCAP retailers. So especially looking at improved dyeing techniques, such as cold pad batch dyeing for cotton, where less heat is needed in the dyeing process and therefore less energy and carbon emissions. Also, dope dyeing on synthetic fibre eliminates the need for water in the dyeing process and cuts down the energy needed, as the colouring and spinning of synthetic fibres is done in one single step. So in conventional dyeing for polyester, the synthetic fibres are extruded and then dyed, but with dope dyeing, the PET pellets are mixed with the dyes before they're extruded. So the fibres are extruded from the process. They're coloured at the end of the process in one step. So now we're looking at how brands can extend the useful life of their products to reduce their footprints. So brands can look at implementing circular business models to encourage reuse and recycling of clothing to reduce carbon impacts by offsetting the need to buy new products made from virgin resources. So brands can look into increasing sales of pre-owned garments through resale and re-commerce forms. And some of SCAP retailers, such as ASOS and Urban Outfitters, have been able to report carbon savings using the footprint calculator through selling pre-loved vintage and upcycled ranges. So retailers can also consider implementing in-store online take-back schemes, and many of the SCAP retailers have taken this action to increase the collection of their customers' unwanted clothing and helping to divert textiles from the black bin and landfill. So by collecting used textiles, retailers can also report carbon savings into the RAP footprint calculator. And then to extend the useful life of clothing, retailers can also offer rental and repair services. So Whistles has been one of our key signatory retailers to offer a repair service, which has helped to divert faulty items from landfill and also given garments a new lease of life. And so as well as making environmental savings, there are also other reasons we're encouraging brands to look at circular business models to increase reuse. And the first one is the potential introduction of an EPR scheme in the UK for fashion and textile retailers by 2025. And this would mean retailers are held responsible for their products at the end of their useful life. So therefore, we're encouraging retailers to get ahead of the curve and implement take-back schemes in their business as soon as possible. We're also expecting the resale market to grow by 5 times over the next 5 years, whilst traditional retail is forecast to shrink according to ThreadUp's 2019 report. So there's the potential for more traditional retailers to get in on the action and offer resale and re-commerce platforms to complement their current business models. And then finally, looking at how brands can influence their customers' behaviours to help reduce their impacts. So 35% of carbon and 65% of waste is attributed to the in-use and disposal stage of a garment's life cycle. So brands and retailers are in a great position to support and educate their customers. And key areas we focused on through SCAP are educating customers on buying better. So this could include promoting sustainable fibre choices and why they have lower impacts, or encouraging the purchase of pre-loved and secondhand clothing. And secondly, brands can look at how they can improve their customers' clothing care habits to extend a garment's life cycle and lower the impacts of washing. So the footprint calculator is updated regularly to reflect the impact of changing consumer behaviours. So since 2012, the SCAP signatories have worked with WRAP to influence consumer behaviour, and in our consumer survey in 2017, it indicated that clothes washing behaviours had changed in relation to washing frequency, washing temperature and machine drying. So we were able to use this insight to update the calculator's background data, and this meant there was a reduction in the carbon footprints of products sold in the UK due to the action of retailers helping to change their consumer habits. And finally, brands can educate their customers on how to dispose of their unwanted items in the correct way. So this could be through offering a take-back scheme, and Primark, one of our SCAP retailers, Primark, has just implemented quite a large-scale take-back scheme, and they found our sort of citizen insight research really useful tool to tell them that they were sort of doing the right thing and on the right track. Or you could look at partnering with a charity such as M&S has done through its partnership with Oxfam, and that's helped to prevent over 18,000 tonnes of waste going to landfill. So we've run through quite a lot of information and quite quickly today, but we hope it's given you a good overview of the Target Measure Act approach that WRAP and its signatory retailers have taken to accelerate sustainability in their businesses. And now I'm going to hand back to Claire to wrap the session up.
Thanks, Kat. So I hope everyone has found today's guidance useful. And if you would like to learn more, or if you are potentially working for a business that is just sort of starting its sustainability journey and looking for an accessible way to measure your impact, then if you want to learn more about taking the first steps, then don't hesitate to contact the WRAP team about potentially becoming a signatory. We have a number of resources and tools which can support you. So as part of Textiles 2030, we will be launching our members portal, and that includes our kind of full library of our Target Measure Act guidance, as well as being home to WRAP's exclusive and a lot of our unpublished resources. So that includes like training guides, webinars, which will include this one, and of course comes with access to our footprint tool with its scenario modeling capabilities. So we're hoping this will help get as many businesses as possible to start on their journey to target, measure and act, and to help us to make that impact that's necessary by 2030. So in terms of getting in touch, we've just popped together a slide here. So firstly, you can visit our website. There's loads of information on there. We have signatory packs on there that explain the Textiles 2030 agreement in a bit more detail. You can reach out to us by email, which is there, textiles2030@wrap.org.uk. You can also sign up to our business briefing. And of course, you can follow us through socials on LinkedIn and Twitter. So I think we've got a good 5 minutes left, so we'll try and answer some of your questions. I know some people have sent some through in advance, and a couple have come through the chat, so we'll try and get through some of those. So someone had asked which products can be measured and which can't using RAP's tool. So I'll take this one, Kat. So in terms of what can be measured, so it includes all clothing, and that includes knitted accessories. So like hats and gloves are covered, and home textiles, so like pillowcases and sheets. But at the moment there are a few items that are not covered. So some of those are like footwear, more of your kind of woven accessories with hardware attachments, furniture, duvets and mattresses, so more of those kind of hardware and pieces aren't currently included, but any kind of textiles and clothing are all included. And then we've had another question. So what advice does RAP offer on setting up a take-back scheme? Someone says they work for a brand trying to set one up and they find it difficult to identify potential partners. Kat, I'll let you answer that one if that's okay.
Yeah. Well, I think it's at WRAP, we've got quite a long history of working with the reuse and recycling sector. So that's put us in a really good position to be able to sort of research how partnerships can work best between brands and retailers and the reuse and recycling sector, and also the charity sector. I guess you need to decide what sort of scheme is going to work best for your brand first. So there's lots of kind of different ways you could implement a take back scheme. Do you want to collect and resell yourself, or do you need a service provider to help you to collect, or do you want to partner with a charity? So we're actually due to publish some guidelines on how to implement successful take back schemes in the next month or so. So I guess watch this space, and yeah, there'll be some guidance out there soon on sort of the different type of partners you could partner with, collectors or charities. And I guess obviously if a brand is really serious about implementing a take back scheme, obviously and closing the loop on their textile waste, joining a sort of collaborative initiative like Textiles 2030 could sort of help you build those strong partnerships between the brand and retailers and the kind of collectors and the recyclers.
Cool. Thanks, Kat. We've got another question that's asking, is Textiles 20 just for fashion retailers, or can other businesses join? So I kind of had a little slide in there that I whizzed through quite quickly, but so yeah, Textiles 2030, what we really want to achieve is to cover all parts of the supply chain, and that's why we've called it textiles and not just clothing 2030. So in order to have the biggest impact, we know that we need high levels of participation across the board, really. So that includes like your fibre and your fabric producers. There are the retailers in there, but it's also end of life organisations. So that could be charities or rag collectors, and your local authorities, and like your fibre to fibre recyclers as well, and any kind of innovative organisations that are really bringing that circularity piece to the forefront and helping scale that up. So yeah, we need contributions from everyone really to get that the pace of the change that we need. So it isn't just a fashion retailer focused program. It's kind of for anyone involved in the textile sector to get involved with. So I think hopefully that covers that one. And then in terms of other questions, so we've had one about suppliers and certification. So someone's been trying to change to organic cotton but finding it difficult to find suppliers, and where should they start? So Kat, I'll pass that one to you.
Yeah, so I think this is quite often a bit of a stumbling block for brands that are like right at the beginning of trying to kind of switch to more sustainable fibers. And I think there's probably a few key places to start. I guess firstly, it's like being able to confidently communicate that you're using organic cotton. So to be able to do that, you need to make sure that that is certified. And through SCAP, we've recommended looking at GOTS cotton certification and Textile Exchange organic content standards. And they both provide that traceability right back to the farm level. So I guess a good place to start is on the GOTS website and the Textile Exchange website. They've got a list of certified suppliers. But you could also reach out to your current supply base to see if they're already certified to use organic cotton. And if you, I guess, if you want to stick with your current supply base and they're not certified, you could look at ways that you could sort of support them to get certified to be able to use the organic cotton. And I guess, yeah, and also just making sure that you're linked up with your internal teams. So, lots of retailers have menswear and women's wear and different and homeware, and all your teams are working on different things. So actually someone might already be looking into this. So I guess it's just making sure that everyone in your brand and with your sustainability team, you've all got the same priorities. Yeah, I mean, I think it's key with all the kind of preferred fibers that you make sure that you have certified fibers, as kind of without that certification, you can't really communicate to, your consumers that you've got preferred fibers, whether it's organic or recycled content, without really having the traceability that you get through certification.
Cool. Thanks, Kat. And then I've had someone's asked about their business having never measured their footprint before. What data would they need, and how do they find it? I know I've had this question before, and I think there's often, with smaller businesses or with businesses that don't have an established sustainability program, I think it can be difficult to measure for the first time, especially if that responsibility might have been given to someone in the garment tech department or someone who maybe doesn't have that specialism to start with. So to report on these scope 3 emissions, there is certain product information you need that can be driven by different things, like the weight of your garments or the number of units you've sold on each garment throughout a year. RAP reports once a year on data, and we have a dedicated team of data experts. So it's not just that you have to figure it out for yourself, sort of thing. We have kind of a host of guidance. We host webinars to help people understand, and obviously we do have those in-house experts. I know that all different businesses store their information in different ways, so we can help you to work out where to look for that and how to kind of quantify it and gather it all together and put it into the tools so you can actually get that visibility on your footprint. So RAP's definitely here to help with that, I would say, on that one. I don't know if we maybe got time for one more. There's been one kind of on the consumer side of things. So consumption is kind of increasing. What part do we think customers play in this, and how can brands lower consumption without sacrificing their profits? I don't know if you want to do that one, Kat.
Yeah, so I feel like this is quite a big question for quite a lot of brands. Kind of how do we stop? How do we lower consumption and still, make a profit, I guess. So I guess it's the retailers really having, we encourage retailers to play their part in educating their consumers on more sustainable habits, but we also need retailers to offer consumers these different types of business models, such as take-back schemes, sort of rental and resale, to enable consumers to change their consumption habits. But retailers could still be making a profit from these business models, and I guess through Textiles 2030, that's what we need to prove to retailers, that they can still do this. And a lot of our RAP insights have shown that there is an appetite from citizens for these new business models, and particularly among the younger and higher frequency shoppers. There's been loads of research coming out on the growth of the resale and rental markets. So yeah, we just really need to try and get these new circular business models sort of complementing more traditional retail models, to drive consumption down, I guess.
Cool. Thanks, Kat. I'm aware that I think we've gone slightly over time now, so I think we'll need to stop there for today. But if anyone has asked a question that we haven't answered yet, and you've given your permission for us to contact you when you signed up, we'll try and get back to everyone with all of the answers. But really, just a big thank you for attending today, and please, don't fear to reach out to us if you want to know any more, or if you have any further questions. You know where we are. But yeah, thanks everyone.